Hello everyone, it's Thursday, so that means we'll be reacting to major news headlines across different fields. Before we begin, if you're new to the channel, welcome to SOB 3D. We do 3D related videos here, mostly. Think gameplays, videos, creating videos, Blender tutorials, and so on. The only thing different, I suppose, is that on most days we also simultaneously talk about different topics ranging from philosophy to pop culture, commentary, and so on. Be sure to check out the channel and subscribe if that sounds like your vibe. Today I'll actually be doing just 5 headlines, okay? Since it did seem like a slow news week in terms of entertainment, major political headlines are making the waves at the moment, most of which I'm not sure that I'm ready to talk about on this channel. So this week, we'll limit ourselves to just 5 major entertainment related headlines that I pulled from a news headlines generator. First on our list, from Pitchfork, Taylor Swift beats Adele's first week album sales record with The Life of a Showgirl. I mean, who's surprised, really? In fact, the only surprise here is that it's just happening. I was under the impression that she'd been doing this since the Midnight's album. I can't forget when Adele's 25 came out. In fact, prior to 25's release was the single release for Hello, and it was major. I remember at school that time, we would always make jokes that Adele dominated both 2011 and 2012 with just one album with no major deluxe version or reissues, mind you. Then she just poofed into thin air. We were genuinely convinced that she'd made so much money that returning to music just wasn't worth it anymore. And that's understandable because this album was literally Billboard's best performing album 2 years in a row. It's insane. So when Hello dropped, first of all, I just remember having the song on loop because of how good it was. How I got to even discover that it come out was I was TV surfing back when the TV was a thing, and I landed on the music channel. I saw this face that I sort of knew, but I didn't believe it was who I was thinking of. Then the credits rolled and my jaw literally dropped. Right after, I ran straight to my room, went to YouTube, I think, and had the song on loop. Number 1 debuts at the time in the US were kind of rare. I think Justin Bieber's comeback single had also done that earlier that year in the late summer. Adele's Hello, however, was so obviously going to debut at number 1. The headlines were everywhere, bro. You needed to be there. You open the internet, right, and you're flooded with Adele breaks X record all day. So to no one's surprise, Hello had a massive debut atop the Billboard Hot 100. Then, sometime later, towards the holiday season, the 25 album came out. And given that Hello was such a big hit already, some of that mojo kind of rubbed off on the album's performance overall. But not surprisingly, 25 didn't really have as many ubiquitous hits as 21 did. I think I only listened to 25 once that year, and I'm not sure what I would think of it now, but I wasn't too big a fan of the album when it came out. My tastes have grown a bit, so I guess I would like it a bit more now, but back then I didn't really feel it. But now we have Taylor Swift. Honestly, with Taylor Swift, ever since 1989, she's always been on an upward trajectory in terms of commercial success. Undoubtedly, 1989 would be the best performing album of its release period. Then she had that controversial album with the grayscale cover in 2017 that people apparently didn't like, but it still did numbers. And there were releases in between, but Midnights is special in the sense that it was the first time in history, I think, that one artist blocked out the entire top 10 slots of the Billboard Hot 100. Prior to her, Drake had come close on 2 occasions with different albums, but she ultimately was the first to do it. Then it happened again with last year's Sepia Tone cover album, can't remember the name, from which I liked the lead single, Fortnite, a lot. And in a matter of days now, it will probably happen yet again. So it's not surprising in the slightest to see her have come this far. Ever since she made a focus shift into bona fide radio-friendly pop music, her fan base has understandably grown exponentially larger each year. The next headline here is actually a list. Rolling Stone releases the 250 greatest songs of the 21st century so far. I think this deserves its own dedicated reaction video, but I'll go straight to the top 10 entries for this video. And number 10 is Frank Ocean's Thinking About You, of all songs from Channel Orange. I don't get why this seems to be every major publication's go-to. Pyramids is easily one of the greatest tracks mankind has ever produced. If they wanted to go with the recency bias approach, the Elsewhere Chet collab recently had a moment on social media. But thinking about you, honestly, I don't get the hype over, especially in comparison to some of the other tracks on the same album. But having Frank Ocean's talents represented on this scale is refreshing to see nonetheless. Then at number 9, we have Britney Spears' Toxic. Bro, of all Britney songs, why is people obsessed with this one? Yes, the production is dope. There's almost no denying that. But if you want to give representation to a more Britney kind of vibe, I guess I would vote for like a Gimme More or a 3. Something that better represents the power that Britney Spears had and still has in the pop landscape. But I understand why Toxic would be the choice. It's a surefire great track, excellent production again, and it's apparently the only Britney song to have won a Grammy, which sounds absurd until you remember how the 2000s decade was packed with equally great artists, and also the taste of Grammy voters were a bit different at the time. I'm not mad at this placement at all. Oh my goodness, guys. At number 8 is Radiohead. I mean, that just needs to be the placement, honestly. Radiohead. They have had so many good tracks throughout this century so far, but the one they picked was Idiotech, which I understand. I'm happy they didn't go with everything in its right place, because that track works more like an album intro than it does a standalone track. Idiotech is a great choice and one of the few songs that I would describe as perfect. Great choice, Rolling Stone. Kendrick Lamar's Alright is at number 7. It's the same thing as Thinking About You, really. There are better songs on the To Pimp a Butterfly album. But similar to Idiotech, I feel like most of To Pimp's star tracks work more like album tracks than standalone singles. Alright is still undeniably iconic, so I can't be mad at this placement. We also have a similar dilemma at number 6, where we have Robin's Dancing on My Own. I love this track, but I love some tracks off the Body Talk extended plays a lot more. This one does sort of take the cake in terms of iconic value though, and part of what really, I'd argue, cemented its place as an iconic composition was Calum Scott's cover sometime in the past decade or so that had the UK charts in a chokehold. I can't be mad at seeing Robin getting well-deserved acclaim for her work this century. Okay, we're going to talk about Taylor Swift again, as she's at number 5 with, as you can guess, All Too Well. I'll argue that this placement is from a recency bias perspective. For me, the original All Too Well was cool, but it never really got much traction beyond indie circles and Taylor's fan base because it wasn't pushed as one of the album's main singles, okay? However, with time, it has grown to become the main highlight of Taylor Swift's Red album and career overall. And thankfully, Taylor herself decided to do this song justice with an extended cut in 2021 that had me floored, I confess. So many times had my hair raised already, but then you get to that one iconic line, right? And that just serves you the final knockout. So it's nice to see Taylor Swift's songwriting talent represented in this regard. Seven Nation Army is at number 4. Not much comment here. It's simply become one of those iconic songs. I wish tracks like Fell in Love with a Girl would also get such love on these publications, but Seven Nation Army is easily the White Stripes' most iconic effort and one of the standout tracks from this century, not necessarily in terms of quality, but more of pop culture impact. Beyonce is at number 3 with Crazy in Love. This song is simply incredible. It's another one I'd have on my list of perfect songs, from the Chillite sample to the added production to the writing to Beyonce's performance. Everything just works. It's a shame it didn't win Record of the year of his Grammy run, but Coldplay's Clocks is also another great song. Yeah, this choice is valid. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't be mad at all if they had given it the top spot. At number 2, this is clear recency bias. It's Yeah Yeah Yeah's Maps. And while that is undeniably an excellent track, placing it this high on a list meant to represent the entire past 25 years and not just the 2000s is a bit shocking, but I'm not pressed over it at all. It does reek of recency bias, however. Missy Elliott's Get Your Freak On is at the top spot. That's an interesting choice. I'm not particularly excited about it, nor am I adverse to it. We've already spent a lot of time with the Rolling Stone list, so let's power through the remaining headlines. Next, we have from Rolling Stone again, right wingers melts down over Bad Bunny headlining the Super Bowl halftime show. Okay, this isn't a surprise at all. And it goes back to what I talked about yesterday. Go listen to my thoughts on childhood indoctrination from yesterday's video. I'll try to link it in the video's description. Yet there's no reason for them to be mad about this. He's definitely a citizen of the United States, but it's only cringe to them because his first language happens to be Spanish. It's easy to dismiss these people as lunatics or bitter, but you need to understand that their belief systems, by and large, are products of their own making. Even the ones who convert to such beliefs later in life happen to have listened to a charismatic enough figure in their space who was able to persuade them onto their side. Okay? It doesn't surprise me too much what these people do and how they react to things. Aren't they the ones canceling Netflix subscriptions over transgender representation in shows that they also claim they don't watch? Oh man, it's almost laughable how there always happens to be something to be angry about or to fight about or to pray against and so on. But it's equally saddening how this divide affects all of us in the long run. As I said, I did a discussion on this yesterday. You can check that out. Next headline, Pitchfork releases a list of top 100 rap albums of all time. Okay, let's give this list a dedicated video. I'm not even going to go through the top 10 here since we already did that with the Rolling Stone list. But when it comes to Pitchfork and their opinions on rap music per se, I mean, aren't they the ones who gave Kendrick's new album 6.6 out of 10? How do you give an album like Damn a 9.2 out of 10, but magically GNX isn't even an 8? So yeah, I'll be examining that list later on with much caution. Last headline. D4VD, not named a suspect. LAPD shares crucial update in Celeste Rivers case. Okay. So when it comes to crime investigations, I tend to stand back and just hope for the best. I don't know if you agree with that approach. Let me know in the comments. I could go fishing around the internet for what I believe to be evidence proving to the contrary. But sourcing said evidence from public forums doesn't exactly count, I suppose. Then there's the suspicion that I've seen online that investigators aren't exactly doing the best that they can. For me, when it comes to allegations, I generally avoid making them based on a gut feeling alone, no matter how strong. You might argue that I just don't know how the system works, but trust me, to a large extent I do. It's all a matter of idealistic principles, really. And that's coming from a place of general global society operating in the way it does because of the gut feelings of people who came before us. Sometimes your gut can tell you, don't jump into this water. The fish here are harmful. It can also tell you, you have a phallus. So therefore, you must subjugate people with vulvas to your commands. And then hundreds of years later, your descendants are still fighting for feminist causes because of your gut feeling. Can you imagine? So my hope is that the logic behind my stance against trusting my gut too much is clear. Regarding this story, I haven't actually followed it. I only vaguely knew of the singer before the incident, and almost suddenly he seems to be getting wall-to-wall coverage. I sincerely hope the perpetrators are brought to justice and that the loved ones of the victim left behind are comforted immensely. If they're saying now he's no longer a suspect, well, my hope is that this isn't the result of foul play in the investigation. Okay. That brings us to the end of this episode of News Reactions. Are there any headlines related to the entertainment and pop culture landscapes within the past week that I missed? Well, let me know in the comments. Also be sure to comment throughout the week on the ones that pop up and you'd like me to cover in the next recording of this sort. If you enjoyed this recording, be sure to leave a like. Also check out the support platforms linked in the description if you'd like to support this channel beyond the usual like and subscribe. Thank you for watching and or listening, and I'll see you in the next one.